Hello, I'm Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer Information Systems at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois, and this video is going to take a look at part 10 of our continuing series of making a game called Boxxle / Sokoban, putting it in GameMaker Studio 2, which we've already done a long time ago now, and now we're in the process of moving this thing over into a C++ / SFML engine. So this is the first time in a while we're going to actually come back to the game, so this been saying this every part like it matters, but for now it does matter, because now we're going to actually generate, using GameMaker Studio, we're going to generate a level. And we're going to, not the gameplay, but just the physical layout of the room, and then we're going to create a text file that for each of the rooms, and then we're going to, next step 11, part 11, we're actually going to go and put this thing into action, at least one of the rooms into action in our real engine. So again, 720p resolution is what we're going for here. 60 by 60 tiles are what we're going for here. And so our goal is to create something that looks semi like this. We don't have to go all out and make it look exact just yet. That's for level design later. We just have to get the basics going. So what are we doing today? Oops, right. Well, I didn't find anything fun, but we need a new level editor. Yeah, I left it from last part. I'm not changing that. So the level editor is the idea here for what we're trying to do. So it sounds complicated, but we're just going to do the quick and dirty, easy way out, just to show you how, other level editors, like if you ever used a tool, in essence, what are they really doing under the hood? They're not doing much more ultimately than what we're doing here. So just the only thing I've done to get started with this video is I've set up my sprites. And again, everything I've been using, everything from my previous game is 60 by 60. So I have my 60 by 60 guy. And in this case, I just went in and I just stole one sprite image from all of those sprite images that we had animated back in the real game when we had GameMaker Studio. So, because the whole point of this is just to have a visual representation. There's no actual gameplay in the level editor. So the hero sprite, 60 by 60, and everything is top left centered and justified here. The goal is 60 by 60, top left justify. There's my goal with my X. My box, 60 by 60, top left justified. Just there's my sprite and wall sprite, and 60 by 60, same deal. So that's the only thing that I've carried over and moved over into this new project. This is a new project for me, and so that's all I've done so far outside of just going ahead and working with that. Okay, so now the object is to put these things into the room and then basically take this and from there somehow create a text file with game information that I can port over. And again, there's a trillion ways to do this. In the past, just for the fun of it, I actually had the students write out and have it converted into true C++ code that we can just plug right into our engine. But we're going to do the text file approach. And if you know how to do XML, if you know how to do any of those other approaches, you could, of course, go ahead and do that. But we're just going to keep it to a very simple text file idea, just to give you the gist of what's going on. So I do need to create objects. I don't need to worry about the parenting, if you remember anything about parenting before. So I'm going to say hero. I'm going to put capital H just because I know what this thing is going to do for me. You can do, again, you can name this thing whatever you want. You'll see as we go. So I have my hero. I have my goal. Oops, come on. I have my wall. Doesn't matter what order I do them in. And I have my box. All right, make sure I got the 4. Okay, so for right now, we're good to go on objects. And just for this, I'm going to rename this room. I'm going to say level 001. And so, I don't want to put a room, let's see, I'll just say level 001 room. I will do that, what the heck. Okay, so right now we only need one room. I'm going to make this thing the 720p resolution we were talking about. So down here, I'm going to turn my room into a 720p resolution. And then also go ahead and change my grid settings to 60 by 60 so I can put everything in much easier than I could prior if I didn't do that. Some of you had errors with that. And now I'm just going to lay the room out like I did before. So if I got a ton of walls, hold down Alt. That's what I'm doing. I'm holding down Alt. That allows me to lay down like a brick layer. So just keep on going. And I'm not going to make anything crazy for this. This is for later on, of course. This is just to get us going. Every so often, let go of the Alt just in case, because if you screw up and you do a Control-Z, you lose everything, and I don't want that. Okay, so then there, put one hero in my room, give me 3 boxes, and again, we're not concerned about, we just have to make sure that, you know, we just put stuff in the room, just all 4 object types. There's my goal, there's my goal, there's my goal, just something like this. So this is my level design for my level 001 room. And so now all I want to do is figure out a way to take this and convert this into a file. So what I'm going to do is create a controller object. This is where all the work is going to be done. Every other object in my scene, I've done my work. So my controller, its job is to generate all the text files. So I got to make sure I put this in the room. Put it up here. Put it somewhere in the first room. Has to be in the first room. We'll see this. We'll see in a minute. Maybe we can fix this up in a minute. But what do we do now is we have our controller object, and now all I'm going to do is basically just say, for every object in my scene, get me the object type, which is its name, which we can do in GameMaker. It's easy to do, easy, quote unquote. Just have to understand how to get to it, and then just print out the X and Y position, and just put all of that information into a text file for every object in my scene. So that's all I have to do now is just go ahead and I can do this actually in a create. I can do this in a step event. I can do this because it's only going to be handled this. We're only going to do this one time. Okay, so my controller. So what I want to do is I want to open a text file. Let's see, file. Just got to remember what the text, what the syntax is. File text open right. All right, and whatever name, now here's the thing I did not research, is how do I get the current room name? Is there a room name? Nope. Room, get name, room. Before I go ahead and work this out, let's test this just to show you. I tested the other part earlier. I'm just going to put a draw event in here real quick, and I'll get rid of this in a second. And I'm just going to say draw text 5, 5, room get name. Let's just see what pops up. Oops. I need this. I'm just gonna I just had an error there, that's all. Just trying to fix that error so I can see this. Okay, and it does, just to show, I crashed it because things aren't working right, but you see that it does print out level 00 room, 001 room, so that I know that it's working. So good. All I need to do is use this code, just say, get me the current room, and then get me the name for the thing. So I can delete this draw event now that I'm happy with what I got. So boom, get room. And I'm going to say .txt because these you know, this is going to be a text file. So this would turn, you know, this file name is now going to be level 00 room.txt. Anyway, so what have I got? Now I've got my file, I've opened it, and I just want to make sure I do a file text close. Okay, so that handles the opening and the closing, and now we just have to handle everything else in between. So what, pretty simple stuff. You're like, how would I get, it's just with all, or with, yeah, with all. And this is just a for each loop. This is basically the for each loop we talked about in previous examples and previous lessons, previous parts here. It's just a for every object in my scene, do something. And so actually, because of the way the with statement works, I have to get rid of the var here. Just trust me on that. And then what I can do here is I can say, I just get me that object name. And so it's object name, get object name. And I don't have to be as crazy about this as I am, but I'm just going to say var name equals get object name, object index. That's another GameMaker variable. I can say what is my x value? Just say x because I'm inside a particular object, and get me the y value. And so now I have I presume I have all the information I need. And yeah, right now it's screaming out, you're not using this, so it's fine. But what I can do is I can do file text write string, because the first part of this is the object name. and I could say write into other, and this is where I have to use the other.file, and then I say name, and then to this file print just one character. Just give me a space after you print the name out. And then now, what is the other one? Let's see if I can write to string, and I can write to real, which is just a floating point number. And I could say give me that XX, and then down here, give me that YY, which is a real here too. But let's see, just because I know how C++ works, and I think we've talked about this if you're in my class, I'm going to put this initial space up front so that there are no white space characters after the final output when I get to the final object, so my game doesn't actually, pitch a fit and do something weird with that extra character that doesn't belong. So print a space, then the name, space, then the X component, space, then the Y component, and then go through for every object in my scene. And then that's it. This is in a step event though, so what I can do here is I can say game end just for the moment. And so, yep, you don't even know it. It ran and it didn't crash. I don't know if it worked right. That's our next step. So what I'm going to do now is go find where this file was generated, and you're not going to believe where it is. Where in the world did this file go? So it took me a while to find, because it's like, where is this thing? So this is in a hidden folder called app data. This is off of your Windows login. At least that's where it goes right now for me. So for whatever reason, Brad L is my login. So it goes into app data, local, and then in my case, the title of my project is Boxxle Level Editor, and then inside of here is that stupid text file. So you're going to need to know this because you're going to, once you generate these things, and to copy it into your main SFML C++ engine, the project, you're going to need to drag and drop and copy these things over. So what do you get when you open this thing? It looks pretty good, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be on a line. It doesn't have to be at all. So controller, -60, -60. We can get rid of the controller object, but you can see goal 780, 480, goal 600, 480, goal. So however, it doesn't matter the order, and we can change things later. Notice it's just one long string, and then wall 0, 0, because that starts off the whole thing. And apparently, it still prints a space. Is that something GameMaker does automatically? I do not know. So we'll have to look into that, because this, it's terrible, but that one little space might ruin everything. So we'll have to look a few parts in to see how this thing holds up. But so all I have to do here to go back now that we know where this file is where's my GameMaker code here, is just to say if my name does not equal controller, or whatever you name that controller object of yours. And I can try it again now, and it runs instantaneously because it takes one game frame for it to work. And so now I've updated the file, and now that's gone. And then, of course, that deleting space is there. I'm just very disappointed in GameMaker. Let's go to the help, and let's see if the help is any help about what write real does. Because you notice there's no space printed after this, but let's see. It can be written with a point as a separator, blah, blah, blah. Let's see the above code. Let's see, you can also void this. It can be erased, EOF. I'm not seeing anything that mentions that it adds a space. That doesn't mean it's not there and I'm not seeing it, but maybe I could try writing it as a string instead. And then we can see if it actually adds the space, because if we look at that thing one more time, there's only one space between the string and the int, but there's two spaces between the real and the next real. So yeah, I would be willing to bet if I just converted this, and I'm saying this is just, oops, that's not even what we want today. It's not even a today problem. If I go back into the controller and just switch this up and say, okay, make this a string for everything, and then convert XX into a string. And again, efficiency doesn't much matter. This thing's going to take an instant no matter what. So it's like, doesn't, it can be, again, this is quick and dirty. Let's see if this fixes our problem, or my problem anyway, which would be your problem later on the road. So now space goal, now good. So now what happens at the end? Good, there is no space after the 0. And that means that everything's going to work out great later on. And you're like, okay, I mean, again, maybe you don't understand, but maybe you remember back that if you have that extra space, C++ goes crazy when you try to read from the file. Okay, so I am happy with this end result. Everything but the controller object is placed in here. And so now it's really just a matter of going ahead and if I wanted more levels, so what I can do, let me just Control-C, or not, let me duplicate this and make this room 2, level 2 room. And let me get rid of the controller in here. We're going to fix things up here in a minute, just me on this. And then duplicate this one more time for level 3 room. And again, the sky's the limit here. You can have hundreds of, hundreds upon hundreds once you get this thing going. And just so I can see things are changed around a little bit, let me just change the layout of each of the rooms just a little bit, just so I can feel better about it. And when we go to do things later and actually make this work in the game engine, we can go, oh, there it goes, it works. Okay, so there's my level 1 room, my level 2 room, my level 3 room. They're all slightly different. And so now here is my controller object. And so what I can do, this is the final fix up here, is to take this and instead of doing a game end, what I can do here is just say, okay, if room, let's just say room exists. No, let's see, room go to next. I just got to remember how to say, how do I know if there's another room? So let's see, how do I do that? Let me take a second, let me pause this a second and come back so I don't bore you with my understanding of can't remember how to do this. All right, so GameMaker helped me out on this one. And so what I can do is I can ask an if statement, say, hey, if the next room exists, then go there. Otherwise, end the game right now. So, because that's what I want to do. I want to start at level 1 and I want it to generate level 1 room.txt and then say, hey, let's go to the next room, and then in the step event do the same stuff, and then it's like go to the next room. And so then I don't have to write any code. I just have to remember that I have this stupid controller object sitting in the first room. And since theoretically you're never going to put a room before level 1, you just have to remember whatever the first room in your game is to put that controller object in there. And so and then the final step is, because the way GameMaker works, normally objects get created and destroyed when rooms come and go out of existence. But if I make this controller object persistent, so it'll exist throughout the entire game as it's generating each individual level. So level 1 will go ahead and generate the text file, then go to level 2, then go to level 3, and it will survive as room 1 is destroyed and room 2 is created, and so forth and so on. So then when I run this, again, you'll never notice anything because the program runs so darn fast. And you could put something in here. You could do a show message or something in here, like bring up a like done, successful if you really want to. But I don't feel the need. So now you see, now there's three text files, and so you can check it out yourself to see. Okay, there's 1, 2, and 3. And say, okay, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and you can see that since everything's moved around, the files contain completely different data. So goal 480, 540, goal 480, 180, goal 780, 480. So they're all in different places because each of the rooms obviously have different data associated with them because the rooms are completely different the way I've set and moved everything around. So this is a great step, because otherwise, say coming back full circle to this, or coming back to think about how would we write our code if we were doing this in C++ without graphical interface. It would take forever because we would have to do create instance, create instance, create instance, create instance, and if we screw one up, we'd have to run the game, see what we get, and then just change stuff around. It would be a ton of trial and error. But for a system like this is great because now I can see way ahead of time what the level is going to look like. I can modify things here and just do a quick dump, and then just take that text file, move it back over into my SFML project, my C++ project, and have it go and just immediately work. I don't even have to recompile this because if a text files will not have to be recompiled. So if I change my levels under the hood, just boom, I just swap out the text files. no recompiling has to be done, and that's a great plus. Is, you know, so that means, well, that's good and bad. That means people can just go and do what they wanted to. They could hack our game if they wanted to, but you know, we're not worrying about any of that kind of DRM or hacking kind of stuff here. So this is pretty much all I wanted to show for this. Make sure again that your controller object is persistent. That's before, and then this code here is all you need for handling all of that stuff. But so again, you could create hundreds of levels now, and it'll generate a text file every single time you run this. It just takes one game frame. So for every 60 levels, anticipate 1 second of delay, and I don't even know what you would see. You know, if you had like hundreds of levels, would you actually see things flickering? I don't know. I've never, because this thing happens so fast. I mean, in 3 game frames or 4, you know, in less than 1/10 of a second, it's generated all the data for us. All right, so as always, any questions, swardb@cod.edu is a great way of getting a hold of me. Comments here through YouTube as well. So next step in the chain here is taking these text files and working it into our engine, so at least we can get one of these levels. We'll just say level 1 room. We'll see, let's get this thing up on the screen, and no action, but let's see if we can translate this and get this to look exactly the same in our SFML engine. Thanks everybody, see you then.